Hello, everyone. Welcome to our June Oneness conversation. We have the theme today is Behold Beauty Everywhere. There's so much beauty to be seen in the world. So I think we're going to be in for a special treat today. And if you haven't been here before, these monthly conversations are really meant to bring us together so that we can commune in a sacred circle format. So we're so honored to have you all with us today, whether you're live or on the recording. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Kim Lyday. I am a holistic healing coach and a board certified music therapist. So my specialty is all about really teaching people how to get in tune with themselves from within. So I work with resonance, I work with sacred soul music, I work with healing the inside from the inside out. And my gift is really expressing love and acceptance. That's my vision, to see the world, a world where we all have love and acceptance for one another and for ourselves. So if you uh, love that, then I would love to chat with you more about that. I can put my email in the chat at some point throughout the meeting. But I would like to turn it over to Judith, our fearless leader, to take us into the conversation a little deeper today.
Thank you, Kim, for that wonderful opening. And for those of you that were blessed to receive the email concerning this call today, I want to thank Kim for her beautiful way of expressing what speaks to my heart and soul. And I hope a lot of what we're all talking about today, from our hearts to yours, really helps your hearts feel better. We're living in an interesting time in the world and planet Earth, where we're going through a tremendous amount of challenge that will open our minds and hearts to begin to resonate with new ways of seeing ourselves. So my name's Judith Ann King Matheson, and I'm a Celtic elder. And I've been on the planet learning for 78 years. And I'm blessed to live in the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory of the heart of Canadian democracy in Ottawa, Gatineau. And in Canada, we're going through a great transition and transformation, as is all the world, but so are we as individuals. So today, I just want to let you know that we really want to welcome your heart to our hearts. And we hope that this conversation will enrich you all with the food we all need for our souls in these times. So we are taping all these conversations just to let you know. And we've been doing this for a period of months. And I just want to honor and give gratitude to the two young, wonderful souls that are working with me to begin to do that deeper work of really knowing and accepting ourselves, so we can do the same for each other and make each other bigger. Because light is coming through, even though it's hard work to begin to feel some of the things we don't want to feel. So please remember to go to Wutaway Wellness Learning website, and it's www.outawais.wellnesslearning.com. And perhaps Joey or Kim could put that up so we have the correct spelling in case those of you want to go and see some of those conversations, including today, can go there at some time. So on that note, I just want to thank you and welcome you all to go to Oneness Conversations and look at some of the conversations, including today, and share with your friends that hope is becoming the sacred tree of life and the fruit of all humanity, beginning to connect this summer in nature. And the theme today is exactly that, seeing the beauty in nature. And the greatest healer, I believe, is to be in nature and be still with ourselves, put our feet in the ground, and give gratitude and thanks that we're able to experience life in its richness, that the key is to find it. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm just going to pass it on now back to Kim, and she's going to lead us through this wonderful process today on this theme. So thank you, Kim, and thank you, Joey, for being here today.
Okay, so I really love the theme today, Behold Beauty Everywhere. Uh, for myself, I will just say that resonates on a personal level for me. Um, Things have just been a little rocky and shaky, to be quite, open and authentic. It's been very shaky for me and my family the past, like, since the end of April, really. We had COVID, and then we were fine, and then our cats were sick, and we visited, my mom, my daughter and I visited my mom. My daughter was sick. got my mom sick. She ended up in the hospital with pneumonia. I was all fearful and worried about her. She's home now, but it was a rough time. She's on oxygen now. And then last Monday, my cat died. So I'm like, all of this stuff is, I'm not trying to vent and bring it down, but all of this stuff, it all felt very heavy. And it all felt very like just dark. Like I kind of felt like I was in darkness. And it was really, really hard for me to see the beauty. It was hard for me to see the light. I reached out to one of my Christian Science friends, Lisa Taylor, for support during all of this, and healing and like trying to shift my mind and kind of get myself into a different experience. And it was not easy. It was not easy. So now I'm in a place where, I'm able to see the beauty of when we were able to get together as a family. And with the cat passing, I'm able to see the beauty that we actually got to hug and snuggle him as we had to put him to sleep because he was suffering. Um, but having that moment where like I hadn't been able to hug him and hold him in weeks because he was in so much pain and he didn't want to be touched. He didn't want to be bothered. So in his final moments of passing, I was fine. I was able to have closure by hugging and holding and petting, and I had comfort knowing that he was at peace and quite. I've actually communicated with a someone who can speak to animals and have received the message that he's very, very happy now, feels totally like ready to pounce on everything. So I find peace and beauty in that and it gives, I think, Judith, you recently experienced a loss as well. And I think that we can find beauty in that experience of knowing that we were able to live a full life with our loved one, whether it's an animal or a person or, whoever it is that we love and care about. We have meaning in that experience together. And there's also meaning in what's beyond that. There's meaning in the after, the afterlife, the after experience, the part where we find ourselves, at least you and I, we find ourselves at now, where we find meaning in each day as we move on and we move forward. So I think, at least on a personal level, as I was saying, beauty, it's so important to put your eyes, put your heart into a mindset where you're willing to see it, because it is there. It's always there. It never leaves us. It never goes away. There's always beauty in each and every second. It's, are we open to it? Can we open our eyes and be willing to see it? And because it takes vulnerability to be able to do that. So I want to pass it on to you guys, just because I'd love to hear some more back and forth about that topic. Passing on to see the beauty in the dark. How do we see the beauty in the dark?
So well said. And because I'm a recent widow going into the 10th month, that really speaks to my heart of the process of grieving deeply and how important it is, but how blessed we are when we can be present to our loved ones of all our relations, not just the two-legged humans that are so meaningful to our lives, but also to our pets, because they are family. And I just want to pass it on to Joey because Joey's just a recent uncle. And so there's a saying I saw in a Catholic church many months ago that really spoke to my heart. And it was written in a huge tapestry that every time a soul leaves to make transition to the other side, and it was not said in that language, by the way, uh, another new soul prepares to come, because now there's a place for a new soul to experience life here. So I'm just going to say that it's a blessing to be present to a loved one and to be really present in a way they are able to make transition in complete peace and harmony with their experience. And to do that with a human being through palliative care hospice or your beautiful pet at a beautiful animal hospital, to be in complete peace and harmony with your experience. But can we not think about exploring doing that, all of us, because we all have pain, But how about doing it before we leave and begin to experience in life itself? And Joey, you have a wonderful story of seeing your newborn niece come, because without the ones passing on to the joy of being on the other side, there's no space for the new ones to come and experience this wonderful place called Earth. And yes, it's hard to be human, but by gum, once we begin to free ourselves, to begin to have fun and go with the flow, we can really experience the joy of life and the joy of new life in every moment. So Joseph, tell us your story.
Yeah, Kim, my heart goes out to you with the family difficulties and the loss. It seems like it's kind of been similar types of situations with people in my life as well over the last couple of months. A lot of different turmoils happening in many different ways, and then it finally hit more home with me with just some family difficulties of my own as well that came up in the last few weeks, and a loss of a pet as well, and a family pet that I wasn't able to be around during this time because it was in a different state. And then so coming here to that house now, knowing that pet's not here anymore, and and my family that just went through that loss recently as well. There was a beauty within that as well, though. Like as they were experiencing the loss, my mom happened to be in the state during that same weekend, and so she was able to take care of my niece while my family was able to be there with the pet that was needing to be euthanized because he was having difficulties as well. And it just happened to be that time. But there was that beauty within that of they were able to be fully present with their animal during that time, while not having to take care of an 8-month-old at the same time, which would be a lot. You can't really be present for both of those things at the same time, since the 8-month-year-old may not understand what's happening. So that was a beauty within that of them being able to be fully present for that. And then now me being here, it's like such a young child has that dense connection to nature, and the absolute present moment where there's nothing but the present moment. And so getting to see like the millions of emotions that can happen on her face in one single second is just beautiful to experience. Everything that you do to try and make a baby smile comes with all these different emotions at the same time, whether she's eating food, something she's already had before, and seeing all the facial changes, or just getting to play and interact with her is just such a beautiful experience. And I guess it comes to that of that there's always, like what you were saying, Kim, there's always beauty that is happening. And during difficulties, it's easy to get stuck in that mode of fear and overwhelm and stress. And it kind of goes back to what I've talked about often, is that we have this natural emotional regulation system that constantly brings us back to contentment and peace and our center point. And we can always access that even in the most difficult times with grief and loss and relationship stress or whatever it's going to be. And I think exactly what you were talking about, like once you start to see like, oh, I can take off this filter and put on another one and start to see that there is beauty around me. I think that is naturally a signal that you've been able to self-regulate through this difficulty, and then can now choose to see all the different perspectives that are available to you, and start to step outside of where your biology might have naturally put you while you were in the stress and feeling like you were spinning off somewhere else. And being able to be with that feeling of that stress is actually what allows you to self-regulate, to be like, okay, I'm going to change my glasses now and see what I have actually in front of me, that there is beauty that's happening even in the most difficult situations. And that is a natural byproduct of it. It's kind of coming back to your center point again, of being like, okay, this is actually, there's good things that have happened here, as much as it's hard to hold. It's still there. So yeah, this is a lovely conversation. I really appreciate being here with you all as always. So yeah, I guess that's what my story that Judith is talking about, is just being able to be around my niece. I haven't seen her since she was 1 month old. So it's crazy to see the different levels of development, where before she would kind of like sometimes look at you, but mostly look behind you, just being so young. And now she's just can't take her eyes off of anybody that's around her. And it's just that constant like soul searching deep stare into your eyes, and that instant interaction of present moment emotions is so beautiful to witness and know that we all have that inside of us as well. So it's really just a mere reflection of myself in a way that's just beautiful to be able to experience. And so glad to be with her during this time for 3 days right now in her 8-month period. And can't wait to come back and get to play with her more as she gets older. Got to put a toy together for her that I bought for Christmas that was like 12 months and above. So now getting to play with her, even though it's a little early, excited to come back and do that again. So yeah.
A true uncle.
Yes, excited. First time. Very excited.
Well, we just had Father's Day weekend, and I really want to honor all the fathers on the planet and all the mothers, but it's absolutely amazing how the little babies, you wonder what they're seeing, the same as an animal. They're seeing the real us. And there's such wonderful gifts to help us see how important it is to be completely present like we are to a baby, how important it is to be present to each other in that way. And particularly, Joey, I love your wisdom around the process of grief. It's so diverse for each and every one of us. But the loss of anything is a grief issue. And many times we'll have those glasses that darken life up on us. And we can't see the light because we're so much in our own pain. But the more we can get connected to our bodies by being simply present to each other in that grief, rather than running away from it, but being present to it, is so important for families to learn that grief is something we deny in the North American culture for some reason. And for some reason, we don't realize that in the loss of anything, we are going to experience some effects on our emotional, mental, physical, spiritual bodies. They'll be thrown out of alignment. And so what I'm finding in this journey as a 78-year-old elder, I've come a long way since not even having the language put out there in our culture around what is it to lose something that's very meaningful to you. And so I sense that we're coming into a whole new era of people being able to have conversations, and you can meet an actual stranger, and in a moment you can become mirrors for each other of connecting like a baby at a very deep level. And that's when you transcend the outer world of all the manifestation of fear and pain and energy that gets us, I like this word, discombobulated. And so we have a choice point now on the planet to have conversations that are deeply meaningful. And sometimes we can do it more easily with a stranger than we can with original family. And that's because sometimes in original family, we also have a history and a story of the programming of reactions that continue that we have to work on changing if we can become more conscious in the moment that we have, as you say many times, Joey, the body has a natural way to heal if we can but stay with us and in our body to keep breathing and be present to what we're feeling. So beginning to learn how important feelings are and the medicine wheel of a mental, emotional, physical, spiritual way of learning to be in alignment. And Kim, you can speak more to that. As a holistic teacher, I'm sure you're present to many beautiful souls that come to you. And in sharing their stories, just in the sharing of the story, we become more in alignment with ourselves and our own particular truth. So give us some insight from your perspective, Kim.
Yeah, I think in particular, when you mentioned the fear, when we're moving down that I'll just call it the dark path, right? And things are happening in our lives, and we're starting to feel like we can't see the beauty around us. It's usually, in my experience, from what I've seen with myself and my clients, it's related to fear. There's a fear of the outcome. There's a fear of what the outcome will mean. And we give meaning to each experience that we have. And the interesting thing is we have a choice to make anything mean whatever we want it to mean. So in, for example, the loss or of someone or a thing or whatever, we can choose to make that mean that this is bad and I've lost something and now life will be hard or life will be sad or whatever the story is that we make up about it. Or we could look at the situation and choose to say, well, this doesn't have to mean bad. This could mean change. This could mean transition. This could mean we get to shift to a new energetic alignment. And what I have found is if you focus on gratitude and love and possibility, it cancels out the fear. If you're looking at your situation from that place where you can get centered in your heart and remember that all is well, because it really is, then you can start to alleviate some of that fear. I recently took a little class on, it was so fascinating. If you've ever heard of Pamela Osley, um, she's a remarkable teacher and she teaches on parallel universes. And she did this training or this experience where she guided us through shifting ourselves, kind of being in what I often call with my clients, I call it like the quantum field, the place where we get to create the place of source and allowing yourself to be creative in that experience, like taking yourself back to source, back to your heart, and then allowing, just seeing what's the possibility here. Because we are divine creators. So what do I want to create in this moment? Do I want to have this experience of loss and pain and suffering? Or do I want to shift it in some way? What can I create from it? So putting a little creative spin on it has always been helpful from what I've seen. So a couple, I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but a couple different ideas and thoughts about how you can alleviate the fear by coming, back to the breath, back to choice, back to I get to see this in a new way, back to possibility. That's what I have found most helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kim. It's that kind of idea that our deepest pain and suffering is the greatest source of our creativity. And so if we can allow ourselves to really fully surrender to those deep, dark, negative, difficult things, that we naturally have an ability to integrate and harmonize and absorb that information and then transmute it into something else if given the proper tools and abilities to work with it. Where oftentimes I think our culture teaches us more to control those things, deny those things, keep ourselves away from it through our smart human mind as much as possible by going to the past and the future, instead of allowing ourselves just to simply surrender and be with it and use it as something that's actually valuable. It's like the manure to gardening, right? It's like very important. And then you can see that as you start to step into those creative moments. So I really appreciate you saying them. I think that's really important for people to try on for themselves, and that each person has a different way of doing that. And that's why we're speaking about it in generalities. It's like this is just how we generally can see that the strings kind of connect, but each individual themselves has to put on the hat and try it out.
Well, we're all creative creators, and everything's about energy. And so in that process, thank you so much for mentioning how important it is to embrace all the energies of what I am. As a widow going through grief, I've personally experienced what you're talking about in the form of creative writing. Now, some people may feel very creative with gardening or painting or cooking or baking. Those are beautiful actions that care for the soul. So when the soul has been traumatized, like in my case, we knew each other for 61 years. So you're partners of life, and your souls, your actual hearts become one soul. So it is deeply physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually traumatic for the new life to begin beyond the pain that one feels with separation. But the interesting thing, When you connect to the deeper source of who you are as a creator, we're energy, and we're here to create heaven on earth. As above, so below, as below, so above. So it's all connected. And when people are on the rainbow bridge on the other side, there's a lot more peace on that other side. I love your words about the animals being in much more safe place to have no pain, to be free, to live the joy of being alive. It's the same with human beings. To be on that other side, hopefully in deep peace, if they were blessed to live in complete harmony with their experience. And this is why it's so important for us to stop denying death and stop denying change and stop denying our fully cognizant spirituality, that we're energies and we're here to remember who we are. As a baby has not forgotten, they remember, they're already here and they're witnessing all these different energies. And I often wonder, what does a baby see? And what does an animal actually see? That we, when we become so cluttered up with life, with all our materialistic, we need this, this, and that to feel happy, we're actually running away from our own deep source of happiness, and that's ourselves. So being creative is very powerful. So I would say for anyone listening, find out what makes you feel joyful, whether it's dancing, drumming, singing, artwork, gardening, baking, and you'll begin to remember why you've come, and what feeds your heart and soul is doing what you love. Become like a little child, the Christ said when he was on the planet, helping humanity to awaken over 2,000 years ago. Well, here we are again in many lifetimes, still here, learning why are we here to learn what this powerful energy of love is really all about. And I would invite everyone to explore that it's actually deep inside our own core. And let's stop running away from ourselves. We're wonderful souls. So bringing out the goodness with your neighbor and anyone else you meet on the street, a kind word can make a big difference. And walking in nature is the greatest healer. Put your feet on the ground and feel that energy and see how it makes you feel from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. Be like a child, wiggle your feet and dance with joy. And it can shift a lot of the energies that Joey's so admirably talking about to help us understand we can let go of pain and trauma, but it's a process. Let's build on that, Joey.
Yeah, like what you were saying kind of brought up for me is that we do have this animal consciousness in us. Mm-hmm. We're biologically speaking, we're very connected to and began with an animal consciousness in nature, and then later developed this smarter human ability to think in the future and plan and become logical and be able to think into the past. But then we lost, almost by gaining that, we lost a more direct connection to the present moment. And like you're saying, like going on a walk and being in nature, like those things bring us back to the present moment and get us back into that feeling mode, that direct connection to our physical feelings in connection with the environment. And oftentimes I believe that's what difficult situations can bring to us, is it kind of attracts us back into feeling mode again. And so I think it's of utmost importance to connect with that. Because I think that's another thing our culture sometimes has kept us away from is that direct present moment experience. And that's definitely what these interactions with my new niece has taught me. It's like she has no other choice but to be in feeling mode. Because as humans, we're literally born too early compared to all other mammals. All other mammals pretty much can be birthed. And if the parent happened to die or got lost from it, many could survive if in the proper environment without support from others. It's really humans that are born much earlier than all other animals. So we're reliant specifically on our parents in order to give us enough time and opportunity to develop the larger parts of our brain to be able to think and eventually take care of ourselves. And because of that, it kind of lays this foundation of a beautiful garden of trauma, where the simplest thing of being too hot, too cold, too hungry, not paid attention to can lay emotional triggers later on in our life. And to understand that just really takes an ability to try and put more attention on our present moment experience, especially in difficult situations, struggles or stresses, because that is a direct connection to our emotional technology that connects us to these pieces of our past. And when we're connected to these emotional triggers and allow ourselves to surrender to them, we also get a deeper connection to that animal consciousness, that connection to exactly what's happening in the moment, and allow ourselves to disconnect from the smart human mind that's telling us all the cultural reasons why we should deny our experience and why our animalness is something to be scared of and fearful of, when oftentimes we're experiencing emotional triggers, we're actually physically safe, even though our body thinks we're not. And so if we can allow ourselves to make that connection to our animal consciousness, to our body, become a self-explorer and a somanaut, it's like the way I like to say it, an astronaut for the body, to be directly connected to this vessel that we have that gives us these experiences, and to stay with it as much as we can, that is the ability to tap into what I'm talking about, this natural ability to self-regulate our emotions. When we allow ourselves to be fully embodied, fully conscious and connected to these difficult situations, if we allow ourselves to surrender to it, we don't have to do anything. The body naturally will do that process. And that gives us exactly what Kim and Judith are talking about, is that ability to heal all of these difficulties from our past that are invading our present moment again. And then as our future self hits new situations, those things never come up as these difficulties anymore, because they're naturally resolved and healed. And especially with grief and death, it's like that is a longer term process where we have the initial hit of the situation that happens. And then as life continues forward, there's more situations that arise that remind us of that person, of the experiences we had with them. And so we get more and more opportunities, which I see as a blessing. And this is maybe beholding the beauty, that those are actually beautiful moments that come up again and again and again, and give you the opportunity to be in the present moment again. Allow yourself to feel that loss and how that person or animal influenced your life in so many ways. And be with it, even if it feels bad, because really that's just a label that we've been indoctrinated in culture to put on there that stops us from actually experiencing it, versus switching that paradigm to its beauty. It's something beautiful that our life is providing to us, to say there's still a little wound there. Would you like to connect with it and heal it? If so, see it as beauty and something positive, and allow yourself to pause your life for the moment because you felt it, experience it, and then again, another part of it's healed. And life might bring more, but it's more opportunity to continue to do that work of self-exploring, becoming better friends with yourself, even becoming best friends with yourself, and finding these beautiful opportunities that nature provides us that I think we've missed oftentimes. So absolutely loving this conversation, because I think it just hits at the core of some of the difficulties we have with situations like this, that I think all of us need reminders of, to be more connected to those things.
Looks like Judith might be frozen, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. So go ahead, Kim.
Okay, so what was coming up for me, Joey, as you were talking about the having these traumatic and what we perceive as negative experiences be beauty. It reminded me of a couple things, ways of being creative with that. Like, again, going back to creating something new from these experiences, really leaning into them. And I remember when I was a teenager, as many teenagers do, they have the angsty teenager thing going on. I remember that every time I was feeling any kind of strong emotion or anger or fear or whatever, I would go and sit in front of my keyboard and I would play the only song I knew how to play at the time, which was Canon in D. And I would play it in such a way to make it match what I was feeling. If you ever heard it, it's a beautiful song or beautiful piece. Um, and they often play it at weddings, and joyful events and things like that. And here I was really, really angry and upset. And so I, put it on like an organ, creepy kind of sound and was playing it really loud and heavy and trying to make it like in almost like a Halloweeny kind of sound. And it reminded me that that was my way of leaning into that and creating something new out of those feelings. And if you look at composers like Beethoven and Bach and all Chopin, all of those people who created these masterpieces, many of them struggled with depression and a lot of trauma in their lives, which is what led them to create the beautiful masterpieces that they did, that people love to listen to, and they just think they're so amazing. And what we don't always realize is they created that piece from a place of pain and suffering. But for them, that was how they leaned into it so that they could feel it and express it and experience it and create something new that now people know about on a global scale. So sometimes us being willing to feel that and be vulnerable and lean into that can literally shift people around us. It can, maybe we're not Beethoven, but it could change the world on some level. It can change our neighbor. It can change our family if we're willing to be in that place and not hide from it. And how many times have we been in experiences where we feel like we're so alone and we're the only one who knows what we're going through? And then you see that person or that friend or someone at church or even a lady on the street that maybe you've never seen before, but you were walking by and, they did the head nod and like, hey, how you doing? And maybe instead of saying fine, which is what we're programmed to say, maybe you were just like at that moment where you burst into tears and then you got a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that lady or that person said, oh my gosh, I just went through the same thing. I know what you feel. And suddenly you have a new connection that you didn't have before. So, it's powerful to be open and willing to lean into these experiences. It looks like Judith is back. Welcome back.
Yeah, I left the planet for a while. I'm so relating to what we're all discussing today because you see, in grief and loss is opportunity for great movement of the soul to get through, to awaken us from the inside out. I often say to people, spiritual awakening and healing is an inside job. If we can open our minds to smile and be kind and a simple touch at the right time to even a stranger, you restore human connection. And to be fully human, we must feel. And one of the things that I'm seeing in the Western world now is we're beginning to understand more significantly now why it is so important to grieve. Because grief is the deeper work of knowing oneself. And if you don't know yourself, you can be a stranger to yourself all your life and keep being triggered by the trauma that you've been carrying from the time even before you were born. The indigenous people are understanding now that we bring the trauma in from other generations. So the work that we do at our own selves to feel the trauma and release the trauma and change the pain to compassion. So if I can be more compassionate with me, I can be more compassionate with my neighbor and others. And so the journey towards fullness of living from a spiritual context is exactly what we're talking about today. See the beauty in nature. We are nature. We're just like a flower in a tree. And the more you can be present to nature, the more you see the beauty in yourself, because it's simply a mirror. And we're mirrors for each other at this time on the planet. And so this is a time of great opportunity to have these conversations. If anything has touched any of us in this conversation, it's how important it is to know ourselves and to be less judgmental and hard on ourselves, because we were all given a message at a very early age, most of us, that no matter what we did was never good enough. And as long as you can pound a piano and express yourself from the depth of who you are, you can create a beautiful melody. And that's why drumming is very important. First Nations have always had drumming as a way of helping people spiritually and emotionally to restore connection to the source of who they are as spirit beings, not just people living from the head up. So I think we're all beginning to return to nature now and to honor and acknowledge that these are very powerful times to simply have conversations. And you can do it yourself. Start a journal every day and say, I'm going to start to get to know who I am, despite the pain I may carry from traumas of a lifetime. I'm going to start to see what I've learned and gifted to me from the pain that has become more compassion for me, so I can be kinder to myself. So I think the theme today is very relevant. See the beauty in nature. Well, see the beauty in yourself and each other as well, because we're mirrors for each other. So Kim, I know you're on a time schedule today, and I know Joey, I'm sure you have something more to share. So keep adding on to this, and I know I'm not going to be watching the time, but I'm going to be attentive to the honoring that we're not rushing in these times, but we're honoring that time doesn't exist, but making sure we have a quality of life does. And so we're not rushing, we're honoring that there's only so much time that human beings seek to live from in these times. So would you guys like to begin the completion towards the 231 I think we're trying to head for today?
Unmuting at the same time. How much more time do you have, Kim? About 5 minutes or a little more?
Like 7 minutes.
Well, one thing I wanted to say, just in response to what you were saying, Kim, you gave me chills when you were talking about like expressing your emotions through working with the keyboard. And I think that's kind of exactly what we're saying about that present moment connection. It's like music, playing music is a direct emotional expression of the feelings inside. And it's like that resonance is being duplicated outside of you, as well as coming back inside of you by being felt through your bones, through your ears. Like it's a full body experience. And so by being able to like essentially change the tones of the same song to directly connect to the feeling inside of you is a great way to have that resonance of expression. So when you said that, I just felt my like chills come up my spine. It was really cool. Something I want to move my way into. Like my grandparents always told me that when I was a little kid. Like my sister and my girl cousins both played music at a young age, and my grandparents paid for lessons for them. And my grandma would always tell me like, "Oh, if you ever want lessons, Joey, let me know. I'll buy them for you." And I just never could make a decision or knew what I wanted to play. And so I just didn't. And that's something that I want to get into in the future. And piano has been one of those things that I've been curious about. And so I think allowing myself to step outside of my more logical brain and step into the creativity and that direct emotional expression by learning basic tones that are very ancestral, tribal, and like connect us to the oldest parts of our creation almost. I think would be very beneficial. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's another reminder.
Yeah, and I just to add real quick to that, if anyone is interested in this idea, I would encourage you, Joey, and like I said, anyone else who's thinking about this, to literally just allow yourself to play. You know, like pull out the keyboard and just start plucking out notes, start putting things together, because it doesn't have to be pretty. You know, when people see children often who have an interest or look like they have an interest in learning the piano or a musical instrument, our first thought is always, oh, you need lessons. And then they learn how to do it right, you know? And so they don't often have that ability to explore personally that they could create something new with it and just be with the sound, be with the experience. You know, like when I was doing the angsty Canon and D version, I wasn't trying to make it pretty. I was just trying to like, oh, let me get all this anger out and put it into the keys. And then I thought it sounded pretty cool, you know, but even the dissonance sounds in a way like it calls to us. It calls to our primal feelings and can connect us to nature, to source, to the energy. Like there's a saying in an organization that I've gone to called Music for People. And you could look up musicforpeople.org and possibly find a group near you. But the saying is there's no wrong notes. That's their motto, no wrong notes. So it doesn't matter if you do it right. just express. Just be willing to play and express and make it ugly, make it pretty, make it whatever. And you're gonna find so much growth and gifts and beauty through that process. Yeah.
And so much healing.
Yeah.
Whatever creative form that you want to express yourself in, whether it's artwork, finger painting, pottery, baking, drumming is one of the most powerful things. The drum reminds us of the heartbeat of our mothers before we're even born. And so even when you make your own drum and you create a healing drum for yourself, again, what you're doing is you're helping to return to your own heart center through the drumming and the actual earth beat of the heartbeat of Mother Earth, because we're all interconnected and wonderfully, in a good way, codependent on each other, remembering who we actually are as spiritual beings. We're energy now, and we're here to be creative and to create the new that's emerging as the old, which is highly structured, based on ego and fear, is starting to dissolve itself and rising up beyond all of that old model that we've all come from. We're living in a time that we're creating the new that's emerging from the old becoming no longer relevant. So it's choice point time now. As we become more gentle with ourselves and we love ourselves and we embrace ourselves, give ourselves a big hug. Hug the trauma, breathe into the trauma, and begin to remember that laughter is the greatest medicine. If we can meet a kindred spirit and have a good laugh that turns into a good deep cry, we're returning to the essence of our emotional bodies, decompressing the physical. And we all store so much repressed energy now that we've forgotten how to be fully human. So this is a time of remembering as well. And for young people like you folks working in modalities that help people to simply be present with you folks, remembering how it is so important for all of us now to have conversations, and do connect with Kim and Joy on the website. Oh, you'll see their information and how to connect with them to continue that journey of exploring a lot of what they've been talking about today is so relevant to all our lives and to all our communities. So again, Kim, would you like to lead us towards the closing, perhaps, if we're getting close to the time in which we want to invite people to maybe hear what they've been hearing in a way that's expressed, so they can maybe take some journaling notes themselves of what really was highlighting for them, but spoke to their hearts as they leave the program.
Yeah, I think just like we've all kind of said throughout the conversation, be willing to explore yourself. So, and be creative through whatever experience you're having, whether it's a trauma or a grief or even just a rough day at work. It doesn't matter. Taking that time to do journaling or play a drum. If you don't have an instrument, by the way, you can turn over a pot, pot or a pan, and drum it with your hands, or drum. I can do it on my desk, so you don't need instruments. Don't use that as an excuse if you don't have one. But or do some artwork, borrow your child's crayons if you don't have anything else, and do some artwork. Put on your favorite song and get up and do a dance or go for a walk, or any of these creative experiences. They're for you. They're for us, so that we can express and we can connect and we can be fully human and fully experience what this life has to offer. All the crazy ups and downs and everything in between, like we get to be it. We get to live it. And that's it from me. I'm gonna let you guys, wrap up anything else you want to say, and then I'm gonna scoot.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the beauty of that we have this natural intelligence that there is this natural intelligence inside of us, and getting back to those roots. A quick story that I had around that ties into what Kim was saying about with music, that you don't need to, it's not required to get lessons in order to understand music, or that feeling, or the expression, the sound expression of the feeling inside. And that's kind of what it was when I got into massage, is that I was kind of guided into doing massage before I was taught how to do it. There's literally someone there with me saying, follow your hands. Like, your hands will tell you. The person on the table will also tell you. It's about learning that language of the feeling, of that connection of your senses with their senses, and being open to hearing that language and interpreting that language, and then responding, and finding that gentleness within it. And once I did that for a couple years and worked on multiple people and learned through that natural process of this intelligence within me connected to their intelligence, that's when I decided, okay, now I want to learn more on the conceptual level and the experiential level, and tie all this together. And so I did that backwards than most people do. Many people learn massage by going to school. And I think music is the same way. So Kim, I appreciate you opening that to me. It's like, when you said that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna start just strumming on the table here. And it's like, it's really for ourselves to play the music and create the music and see how our body experiences that. And it's really also a practice in what are my self-judgments of that, because really we are our own worst critic. And so by singing in the shower, or, deciding to make some music at any point in your life, like, it's really our own judgments as to why we do it or we don't do it. And just finding that beauty and that connection to our natural intelligence is really of utmost importance right now, to feed our own soul and fill our own cup before we go out and trying to give to others. Judith, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we close here?
Just how important it is to be still and know ourselves. And through the creative art form of writing poems and poetry and prose, just allowing yourself to channel whatever's coming through is a powerful way of truly honoring and loving oneself. And again, words are only words. And it's hard for people to relate to something if it's not been part of their experience. So experiences and events are the greatest teachers in life. And how can we be more gentle with ourselves? And so this continual process of conversations, if it helps us to embrace forgiveness, which is our next theme that's coming up on July 19th. Forgiveness is a very important word, as are many words. But to truly live life to the fullest, we have to be a lot more gentle with ourselves. So I would like to just say that the program after the next one also builds on what we're talking about today, seeing the beauty in nature. Nature never rushes, but it always gets things done. Human beings have to let go of the conditioning that's been given to us. And I think it's time to open to the divine in our own hearts, to the many, many spiritual lessons we're learning on what we can choose to be each day of our lives and each moment, less hard on ourselves. Let's be gentle with ourselves. And so in gratitude, I would just like to say that when we're letting go of pain and the loss of anything, we can also choose to live in gratitude. And everything is polarity, and everything is about choice. So being kind to ourselves is the step number one to truly loving who we are, because we are that divine love, but we must do it for ourselves first. So bless you all, and gratitude to you all for this wonderful sharing of today. I hope everyone's been fed. And Kim and Joey, we'll look forward to seeing you next month, 2:30. And again, it's on July 19th and August 15th. And have a most blessed journey in your summer. Summer is the time to really return to breathe and to be in nature. Wherever you live, be sure you walk in the wind, embrace the sun in a good way, and honor that everyone needs vitamin D from a natural way. And we need to breathe by walking. So let's return to our roots. So would you like to complete this?
Beautifully said, Judith. Thank you so much. And you all help me to be reminded that we can connect in this way, and that other people have this ability as well. It's just finding those who resonate with you, connecting with them, and starting these open conversations. Never know where it's going to start, where it's going to be in the middle, or where it's going to end. But the feeling is always good. And like Judith said, we'll be back July 18th feel free to check out the YouTube for previous recordings. And then thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to hang out, and check out the chat. The links in there allow you to connect with us further as well. Hope you all have a beautiful month, and we're happy to see you next time.
Thanks, Joey. Thanks so much, Kim, for welcoming us and sharing all of you, your hearts to ours. I said,
yes,
bigger and better. Take care, everyone.
bye for
Thank
now.
you, everyone.